Section 14.2, Social Influence. Social psychology's great lesson is the enormous power of social influence. This influence can be seen in our conformity, our compliance, and our group behavior. Suicides, bomb threats, airplane hijackings, and UFO sightings all have a curious tendency to come in clusters. On most high school campuses, jeans are the dress code. On New York's Wall Street or London's Bond Street, dress suits are the norm. When we know how to act, how to groom, how to talk, life functions smoothly. Armed with social influence principles, advertisers, fundraisers, and campaign workers aim to sway our decisions to buy, to donate, to vote. Isolated with others who share their grievances, dissenters may gradually become rebels, and rebels may become terrorists. Let's examine the pull of these social strings. How strong are they? How do they operate? Section 14.2.1, Conformity and Obedience. What do experiments on conformity and compliance reveal about the power of social influence? Behavior is contagious. Consider. A cluster of people stand gazing upward, and passers-by pause to do likewise. Baristas and street musicians know to seed their tip containers with money to suggest that others have given. One person laughs, coughs, or yawns, and others in the group soon do the same. Chimpanzees, too, are more likely to yawn after observing another chimpanzee yawn. Anderson et al., 2004. Sickness can also be psychologically contagious. In the anxious 9/11 aftermath, more than 24 elementary and middle schools had outbreaks of children reporting red rashes, sometimes causing parents to wonder whether biological terrorism was at work. Talbot, 2002. Some cases may have been stress-related, but mostly, health experts concluded, people were just noticing normal early acne, insect bites, eczema, and dry skin from overheated classrooms. We are natural mimics, an effect Tanya Chartrand and John Barr, 1999, have called the chameleon effect. Unconsciously mimicking others' expressions, postures, and voice tones helps us feel what they are feeling. This helps explain why we feel happier around happy people than around depressed ones, and why studies of groups of British nurses and accountants reveal mood linkage, sharing up and down moods. Totterdell et al., 1998. Just hearing someone reading a neutral text in either a happy or sad-sounding voice creates mood contagion in listeners. Newman and Strack, 2000. Chartrand and Barr demonstrated the chameleon effect when they had students work in a room alongside a Confederate working for the experimenter. Sometimes the Confederates rubbed their face. On other occasions, they shook their foot. Sure enough, participants tended to rub their own face when with the face-rubbing person and shake their own foot when with the foot-shaking person. Such automatic mimicry is part of empathy. Empathic people yawn more after seeing others yawn. Morrison, 2007. And empathic mimicking people are liked more. Those most eager to fit in with the group seem intuitively to know this, for they are especially prone to unconscious mimicry. Lakin and Chartrand, 2003. Sometimes the effects of suggestibility are more serious. In the 8 days following the 1999 shooting rampage at Colorado's Columbine High School, every U.S. state except Vermont experienced threats of copycat violence. Pennsylvania alone recorded 60 such threats. Cooper, 1999. Sociologist David Phillips and his colleagues, 1985-1989, found that suicides, too, sometimes increase following a highly publicized suicide. In the wake of screen idol Marilyn Monroe's suicide on August 6, 1962, for example, the number of suicides in the United States exceeded the usual August count by 200. Within a one-year period, one London psychiatric unit experienced 14 patient suicides. Joyner, 1999. In the days after Saddam Hussein's widely publicized execution in Iraq, there were cases of boys in Turkey, Pakistan, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and the United States who hung themselves, apparently accidentally, after slipping nooses around their own heads. AP, 2007. What causes suicide clusters? Do people act similarly because of their influence on one another, or because they are simultaneously exposed to the same events and conditions? Seeking answers, social psychologists have conducted experiments on group pressure and conformity. Group pressure and conformity. Suggestibility is a subtle type of conformity, adjusting our behavior or thinking toward some group standard. To study conformity, Solomon Asch, 1955, devised a simple test. As a participant in what you believe is a study of visual perception, you arrive at the experiment location in time to take a seat at a table where 5 people are already seated. The experimenter asks which of 3 comparison lines is identical to a standard line, figure 14.2. You see clearly that the answer is line 2 and await your turn to say so after the others. Your boredom with this experiment begins to show when the next set of lines proves equally easy. Now comes a third trial, and the correct answer seems just as clear-cut, but the first person gives what strikes you as a wrong answer, line 3. When the second person and then the third and fourth give the same wrong answer, you sit up straight and squint. When the fifth person agrees with the first 4, you feel your heart begin to pound. The experimenter then looks to you for your answer. Torn between the unanimity of your 5 fellow respondents and the evidence of your own eyes, you feel tense and much less sure of yourself than you were moments ago. You hesitate before answering, wondering whether you should suffer the discomfort of being the oddball. What answer do you give? In the experiments conducted by Asch and others after him, thousands of college students have experienced this conflict. Answering such questions alone, they erred less than 1% of the time. But the odds were quite different when several others, Confederates working for the experimenter, answered incorrectly. Although most people told the truth, even when others did not, Asch nevertheless was disturbed by his result. More than 1/3 of the time, these intelligent and well-meaning college student participants were then willing to call white black by going along with the group. As Marian Wright Edelman said in The Measure of Our Success, 1992, have you ever noticed how one example, good or bad, can prompt others to follow? How one illegally parked car can give permission for others to do likewise? How one racial joke can fuel another? Conditions that strengthen conformity. Asch's procedure became the model for later investigations. Although experiments have not always found so much conformity, they do reveal that conformity increases when 1 is made to feel incompetent or insecure, the group has at least 3 people, the group is unanimous, the dissent of just one other person greatly increases social courage, 1 admires the group's status and attractiveness, 1 has made no prior commitment to any response, others in the group observe one's behavior, one's culture strongly encourages respect for social standards. Thus, we might predict the behavior of Austin, an enthusiastic but insecure new student government member. Noting that the 10 other members appear unanimous in their plans for a fundraiser, Austin is unlikely to voice his dissent. Reasons for conforming. Fish swim in schools, birds fly in flocks, and humans too tend to go with their group, to think what it thinks and do what it does. Researchers have seen this in college residence halls, where, over time, students' attitudes become more similar to those living near them. Cullum and Harton, 2007. But why? Why do we clap when others clap, eat as others eat, believe what others believe, even see what others see? Frequently, it is to avoid rejection or to gain social approval. In such cases, we are responding to what social psychologists call normative social influence. We are sensitive to social norms, understood rules for accepted and expected behavior, because the price we pay for being different may be severe. Respecting norms is not the only reason we conform. Groups may provide valuable information, and only an uncommonly stubborn person will never listen to others. When we accept others' opinions about reality, we are responding to informational social influence. Those who never retract their opinions love themselves more than they love the truth, observed the 18th century French essayist Joseph Joubert. As Rebecca Denton demonstrated in 2004, sometimes it pays to assume others are right and to follow their lead. Denton set a record for the furthest distance driven on the wrong side of a British divided highway, 30 miles with only one minor sideswipe before the motorway ran out and police were able to puncture her tires. Denton later explained that she thought the hundreds of other drivers coming at her were all on the wrong side of the road. Woolcock, 2004. Robert Barron and his colleagues in 1996 cleverly demonstrated our openness to informational influence on tough, important judgments. They modernized the Asch experiment by showing University of Iowa students a slide of a stimulus person followed by a slide of a four-person lineup, figure 14.3. Their experiment made the task either easy, viewing the lineup for 5 seconds, or difficult, viewing the lineup for but a half a second. It also led them to think their judgments were either unimportant, just a preliminary test of some eyewitness identification procedures, or important, establishing norms for an actual police procedure, with a $20 award to the most accurate participants. When the accuracy of their judgments seemed important, people rarely conformed when the task was easy, but they conformed half the time when the task was difficult. If we are unsure of what is right, and if being right matters, we are receptive to others' opinions. Our view of social influence as bad or good depends on our values. When influence supports what we approve, we applaud those who are open-minded and sensitive enough to be responsive. When influence supports what we disapprove, we scorn the submissive conformity of those who comply with others' wishes. As we saw in Unit 10, cultures vary in the extent to which they value individualism or collectivism. Western Europeans and people in most English-speaking countries tend to prize individualism more than conformity and obedience. These values are reflected in social influence experiments that have been conducted in 17 countries. In individualistic cultures, conformity rates are lower. Bond and Smith, 1996. In the individualistic United States, university students tend to see themselves in domains ranging from consumer purchases to political views as less conforming than others. Pronin et al., 2007. We are, in our own eyes, individuals amid a crowd of sheep. Thus, tattoos, once a symbol of nonconformity, may lose their appeal if they become too popular. Obedience.